listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here today at Great Garment Graphics. My name is Jody Weiler, and here today we're going to present how to vectorize your art with Artvark Express. This is the second webinar in a series that we have going all month long, our You Don't Have to Be an Artist series. So each webinar for the month is going to kind of let you know that we know that artwork is your biggest challenge, or oftentimes one of the biggest challenges in your new business or your already established business. And there's definitely certain ways to produce great artwork without having to be an artist, or oftentimes not even having to have an in-house graphic artist. So for those of you online, thanks again, once again, for attending. But if you could just type in that you can hear me okay. I just want to make sure everybody's audio is working. And then we'll get started. Also, just a couple, great, it looks like everyone can hear me, just a couple housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded, so if in fact you want to come back to greatgarmentgraphics.com, or if you have to leave early, I know that you all are either starting businesses or have busy days, your time is valuable. Feel free to just exit if you need to, and then come on back. You can view the webinar. It's usually put back up in our archive section on greatgarmentgraphics.com within 24 to 48 hours. If you signed up for to receive our blog post or to get on our mailing list, you will also receive it along with the blog post and any other type of additions that I may add. Some things that maybe you have questions about that we don't cover in here will be included in the blog post, and then you'll just receive that directly into your inbox. And then also, finally, any questions you have, just type them into the box. I will try to address them as we go. And if not, if they don't necessarily apply to what, the slide we're on right now, I will definitely address them at the end of the webinar, because there will be time for that. So a little bit about me. I'm your presenter. My name is Jody Weiler. I started off at Stahls ID Direct in the customer service department as a custom logo representative. So custom art is sort of my area of expertise, or at least figuring out how a customer can get art to us in the best usable fashion with the least amount of setup charges. I then moved into web marketing as an educational specialist, and I've made a ton of garment decorating mistakes. And I can tell you, and I'm sure you already know, that practice makes perfect. So today the areas we're going to cover are what is raster art versus vector art, different ways to convert your art, some artwork guidelines as far as when you submit work to us here at Stahls ID Direct or to Transfer Express, and then finally some additional resources that are available to you, and also a page that are all hyperlinked of every sort of area that we touch on that you can just use. You can actually download the PDF once it's posted within 24 to 48 hours if you want to keep the slides, and then they're hyperlinked there. So what is raster art versus vector art? What do we mean when we talk about that? Raster artwork is digitally created using pixels. So the quality of your raster image can be negatively affected by either being recolored or by having to make it a larger size, or even being manipulated. So the idea of that is raster art is essentially, once you send it in, unchangeable. So you can't really do much to it. Typically, it needs to be converted into a vector format in order to be able to produce it either digitally, or if you need to make changes to it, color changes, typically then it needs to be converted into a vector art, which then often incurs setup charges. But when you're creating raster art, some of the programs that do that are PhotoPaint or Adobe Photoshop, and those are generally the most used software programs in order to create raster artwork. So when we talk about vector art is actually digitally created as well, but it uses shapes, lines, curves, and paths. So it's an entire design made up of shapes, and you can see the difference in the top image here. where you can see all these little pixels and dots being put together in order to create this image right here. And in a vector artwork, it's actually lines and paths and curves that are actually used to create this image. So the nice thing about this is that you can resize it, you can manipulate it, you can change colors, you can do all sorts of things without actually affecting the image quality. So programs typically that are used to create vector art are CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. Also CADWorks Live. You can create vector art in CADWorks Live. And so oftentimes what you'll find is that, you know, raster artwork is fine if you're screen printing, but if you need to change an image or manipulate it, oftentimes when you're submitting it, especially for digital printing or even your screen printer, will ask for vector art. So the problem then comes in is that most of our customers, or your customers, I should say, typically just sort of their person hands them some type of JPEG or even like a handwritten drawing of what the idea is that they have. So they have very little understanding of the way to convert this into a usable process. So oftentimes they may have an idea in their head, and then we have limitations here in the garment decoration. I mean, some limitations, and so it's difficult to relay this to them without having some sort of degree in artwork. So, you know, one way to explain it is, you know, there's benefits of raster and vector for digital printing in particular. And digital printing can be screen printing. It can be actual digital printing with a 4-color printing process or a CMYK process. And so what to look for is that raster images include any file with the following extensions. These are your JPEGs, your bitmaps, your GIF images, your PNGs, your TIFFs, or your PSDs. And most decorators require these images to have a resolution of 150 DPI, which means dot per inch at the actual size it's going to be printed. So oftentimes you may have a customer send you an image. They just pick something off the internet and they like this. But the problem is these are usually like 70 DPI or lower, and they don't reproduce very well, especially in a digital image. So the higher the resolution the image, the better your results are going to be, the more clarity your design's going to have. So when we talk about vector images, these include any of the files with extensions of a CDR, which is a CorelDRAW file, an AI, which would be in an Adobe Illustrator, even a PDF or an EPS. And so since vector graphics consist of lines that can be moved or resized or changed without losing the quality of the art, and also you can send the file, you could have moved things, but also the person you're sending it to can also amend those files. And because of this, it provides the utmost in a crisp, clear design at any resolution or any scale. So the point of that is if you send it in at a 4x4, it can be resized to a 10x12 or a 12x12 without losing any type of clarity on it. And so, as I already explained, raster images can't be amended. I mean, you can't amend those dots. They need to be either redrawn in a vector format, which typically will cost you more in service charges. So then when you're sending it to your service provider, obviously it's going to save you money, or it's going to be a lot easier if you can send it in vector versus a raster image. And so the question then becomes, what do I do when my customer only has raster art to send me? They don't have a vector image from the school, or they don't have access to it. And oftentimes I found that if we went back and did ask the customer, especially if they were getting it from a school or from a business, they do have those logos available in vector art. And oftentimes all you need to do is ask. You know, tell them, I need a vector image for this. You may not know what it means, but the company you're getting it from is probably going to know what it means. And they have some designer somewhere that has their logo or whatever in some type of vector file. But if that isn't the case, and it's not really a school or a business that you're dealing with in order to reprint their logo, it's just sort of maybe a family reunion type thing or a smaller business type thing, you can do one of a few things. You can hire a graphic artist outside to vectorize an image for you. Oftentimes, you can find a local one that it just you can hire at contract work, but that typically, you know, they work at $35, $40, $50, $60 an hour, or Conversely, if you are a customer of Stalls ID or any of the group stall companies, you can utilize your free trial on CADWorksLive.com and you can vectorize some simpler images or even a few more complex images if you're savvy inside of CADWorks Live. Or you can utilize a vectorization service such as Artvark Express, or you can simply send in the art and pay the art charges for whatever company you're asking to reproduce this for you to do it for you. So those are a few options if you are not an artist, and you don't have to be one because I'm going to show you some different ways here in order to create vector images to send in. So for our first option, well, your first option would be find a local graphic artist. You could definitely go that way. But if you decide, well, you kind of like to keep this in-house, don't really want to pay somebody to do it for you, you have a pretty simple image like the one I did below. And this is actually an image that I reproduced, and it had some text above it and below it, but it was for a teacher friend of mine, and she was a softball instructor and wanted to make like 12 t-shirts for her girls. I ended up actually cutting this in cad-cut out of glitter flake, and her high school girls absolutely loved it. So let's go to, I think I have CADWorks Live up, and I'm just going to show you. I have listed in here the procedure of what you would do in order to pull your image in and then to get it vectorized. But I'm going to show you actually a step-by-step process here. Okay, and it looks like everybody can see my screen here. Okay, so I'm going to log in. And one thing to note is that it says here, you know, on CADWorks Live, if you have not tried it and if you have not utilized it, it is a great online, easy-to-use tool for you. I create almost all of my artwork in CADWorks Live. I'm not an artist. I've sat in on every single one of Steven's seminars on Corel Draw. He's done an entire year-long series from Imprintables Warehouse month by month. He's kind of built up your skills, and I've sat in on every single one of them, and unfortunately I still am not proficient in Corel Draw. So I turn then to CADWorks Live because it's easy to use. It's an online software. I can access it anywhere. I can go home and create a design without actually having to download any software. And it is extremely easy to use, especially the Easy Teams function where you can upload an entire raster and send it to your cutter, or you could actually send it out for screen printing if need be. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to upload the image. So I've logged in. I'm here on the main. I'm sorry, I probably should have went back here. What I did was I clicked on here. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to create a CAD print design, okay? And then once we go in there, I'm going to upload an image. This is an image that, you know, my teacher friend sent to me. So I already have it in here. So you could do one of two things. You can browse your computer for the image that you already have saved, or if it's one that you've recently worked in, or even one that you created in CADWorks Live, you can select it. And we're simply uploading this in order to get it vectorized. So the next thing we're going to do is it's now pulled into CADWorks Live. We're going to just click on it and highlight it, and then I'm going to go over here to the left where it says Vectorize. So what I'm asking it to do is take this from a JPEG image into a vector format. So it asked me for my background colors. Well, that's just going to be white, since this was actually a CAD-cut design, not one that I was creating for digital, although it could be printed digitally as well. And then I'm going to select my foreground color. So we see it right here. Red is my one color foreground. Next. And right here, it's going to vectorize it. Now you can see here, if you want to merge smaller regions, this is where you would mess around with the region resolution. And let's see if we want to take this down to a 4 and see if we can see any difference in it. You can't really, because there aren't really any smaller regions. But I prefer just to use the default settings Most of the time, they're pretty spot on. And then the fit to curve, if you increase this value, it's going to turn these corners, it's going to smooth them out. So let's turn this up to 9 and see if we get any of these jagged edges any smoother. And you could see it did smooth out just a little bit here, and we may even have to go higher, like to a 15, to see a difference on the actual blocks. See? So, but it's making my corners, my little eagle jagged edges smaller and tighter. So we'll go back to the default setting, because I want to keep it exactly how they handed it to me. And then we're going to click OK. And here it has vectorized. And the way we know this is if I click in the wireframe down there, look at that. So all this is my cut line right here. And this is exactly what the vinyl cutter is going to cut out for me. It's going to cut this design. So that is definitely one easy way. And what you can do is you can click on Save Your Design, and you can save it in here, or you can utilize the download image, and you can export this to your computer. You can add a watermark if you want to send this out to your customers. Let's see if it'll show me my open file. There it is. So you can actually utilize CADWorks Live and to create images or designs that you want to send out to your customer for approval. This could definitely be a proofing process. So you send it to them, looks good to them. Now you've got it in Vector Art, you're good to go. You're either good to cut it on your own vinyl cutter, or you're good to send it out to us. So I have listed here each of the steps to get it to go from this simple JPEG image into this vector image. So definitely when you utilize the PDF, you'll be able to just follow these prompts, and it'll tell you exactly the steps to follow in order to create this process for yourself. So another option for us is to utilize Artvark Express. And Artvark Express is I've used them actually several times for more complicated raster designs that I wanted vectorized. And I can tell you they're super fast, they're super efficient, you'll get your quote lickety-split, and typically even though they offer like a 3-day service, it's typically not even 3 days before you get your artwork back. So you may need vector art that's tailored for any of your production needs. So if you're printing on your inkjet printer, perhaps sublimation, screen printing, vinyl cutting, sign making. One thing to note, though, that for direct-to-garment printing, you typically want the image in a raster because it will pick up kind of all of the shading, and direct-to-garment printing is ideal for JPEG images. So I'm going to pull Artvark Express over here and show you how to utilize them. So you would go to artvarkexpress.com. I think I have that hyperlinked on that slide. And then you would utilize your member login. And I don't actually have one, but the simple process is that then you would simply request a quote, and then once they send you back your quote, you either approve it or you don't do anything with it, but if you approve it, it'll translate into an order. And then they will send you here's all the steps right here. So you would have to register as a new user, and then you would request an online quote, and then you would convert your quote to an order. And then you would check for your order alerts, which you don't really have to check for many because they send them to you via email. And then you would simply download your completed order. So the nice thing about this is that once they vectorize your file, this file is yours. They hand it back to you. It is yours to send to whomever you need to utilize as many times as you need. So that is definitely one of the pluses of utilizing Artvark Express. And I wouldn't say that there's more pluses or more drawbacks to sending your artwork in and paying art fees at your local, your production facility, or whoever you choose to create the design to do the CAD-cut or the digital printing for you. But oftentimes they won't. They have your artwork, which is fine, because if you're going to utilize them to reorder the artwork, then that's perfect. Then you don't have to go digging it up or re-uploading it or anything like that. So if you typically use the same supplier, then that's perfect. They can keep your artwork on file. It's nice and easy. It's less thinking for you. But if you think you're going to be utilizing this file in order to perhaps send out to your screen printer, and then perhaps send out to your digital printer, also to send to your own vinyl cutter, then perhaps this may be a way to go for you in order to keep that file as your own. And so here are all the steps, and then your artwork is ready to be sent. So here is actually their pricing schedule. I definitely know that, you know, we all care about pricing, and it's really for standard art service. I mean, $18 for 3 days. I mean, that's really nothing, and that's definitely a cost that you would pass on to your customer. I mean, if they definitely don't have a vector file or cannot supply you with one, $18, or once you get that quote back of the specific pricing. Most of my artwork, I've had some pretty detailed artwork, and most of it has been in the $18 to $25 range. And also oftentimes you can go online, and Artvark Express is running specials. Like after your first order, you get 50% off of your second order. So they definitely have incentives to keep you coming back. And so most of, like I said, my artwork that I provided to them that they've worked for me has been in the $18 to $25 range, and they're super, super easy to work with. And it was really worth it to me, you know, in order to not have to think about or not have to, you know, hunt down the graphic artist in my area in order to have them do it for me. So this was definitely an option for you. So now you've got your art back from Artvark Express, and now you're ready to send it to stalls for digital printing. And so what does that mean when I say digital printing? Digital printing is best for what we call CAD prints, are best for full color designs, or designs that have a lot of shading and dimension like the one you see in the photo here, or for hard to print fabrics. Hard-to-print fabrics such as neoprene, performance wear, nylon, and even leather. And also CAD prints will work on a lot of hard goods as well. So like pad folios, which are not typically leather, but leather pad folios, or even those sort of leather, I guess they would be vinyl pad folios. It's great for koozies. I mean, the options are pretty limitless, and especially if you have a full color design, it's a great option. And then also where you have a full color design that you need, but it's low run. Somebody wants maybe 5 to 20 pieces, where screen printing, you know, getting together 5 screens is just simply not cost effective for you or for the customer. So this is always a great option for those low run, full color designs. So when sending in your custom digital artwork, obviously the preferred artwork is vector. So you've got it back from Artvark Express, or you have your own vector file, or you're an artist and have created it. And here's just some guidelines when you're sending it in, just some things to think about or to note. You definitely want to convert all your fonts to curves. So in order to do that in CorelDRAW, with your art ungrouped, you would select all of those and convert it to curves by selecting Arrange and then convert to curves. And then if you don't convert it to curves, you will get a message back when you do upload it that it needs to be converted to curves because we can't see it on our end. And then also here's the notes for how to do that in Adobe Illustrator, which is even easier. With your art ungrouped, you select all the type, all the text, and convert it to outlines just by right-clicking and selecting Type to Create to Outlines. And then I did also include the note here that for direct-to-garment printing, raster format or a TIFF with a transparent background is preferred. And so the nice thing about vector art is that if color changes are needed, you can either provide a color from the Stahl's digital color palette, or a Pantone color, a PMS color, or CMYK values. So one thing to note is that since digital printing is typically a 4-color printing process, the most accurate color matches you're going to get is by utilizing CMYK values. If you send a Pantone, it's going to be pretty darn close, but it's not going to be exact because because CMYK is a direct color reference for a 4-color system. So, and then when we talk about the Stahl's digital color palette, let's see if I can locate that for you. Let me just, I'm on a different screen here, so I'll pull it up and then pull it over. So some heat printing tips and tricks. And you can find that under the Education Center on stalls.com. Here, let me pull it over for you right now so you can see it. So we're in heat printing tools, which you could find at the under heat press tips and tricks. And then you want to go under heat printing tools. And then here's the digital color palette. So these are the colors you would reference from our color palette, which will be exact color matches for the process that we use. So this is a great, great reference tool when sending an artwork and specifying what specific colors it is that you're looking for. You can access this. This is a PDF. You can print this out on your color printer and have it just right on hand. Or oftentimes, too, you can call the custom service representatives and they can have an actual digital color palette sent out from you, actually printed on the digital printers that we use. So that is going to be the most exact color match that you will find when using it for reference. So if you do need to send in a raster file, and we know that this happens, there are some art fees. So it's $20 for the first half hour. And most, I don't want to say most, but your simple artwork can be reworked typically within that $20. I've never really seen an art charge more than $65. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen one. Most are anywhere between, let's say, a half hour and an hour. So it's 20 hours per half hour. So typically the most you'll pay is $40. But for an extreme type of reworking with a ton of detail, then typically that's a little bit more. So, but what you definitely want to do, and here's another thing to note, we can reprint it digitally as a raster image, but you have to make sure it's at least 150 dpi at actual size. And if it does in fact need an outline, then it's only going to be the outline, which is the background. So if you send it on a black background, your raster image, if it needs an outline, it's going to be black. We can't change that. If you send it in on a white background and it needs an outline, your outline is going to be white. So that's the thing about raster images, is they're really unable to be changed. But you definitely want to send it in at least 150 dpi. So that typically is not an image that you would find on the internet. Those are typically 70 or below. But if in fact you do have to send one in, then oftentimes there will be like a $20 or $40 art charge in order to convert it to vector, in order to get it to a decent resolution that it's worthy of printing quality. So the higher the resolution, the better results. So 150 is the lowest you want to go, but the highest you can get it is even better. And so oftentimes what you'll find is if you say, well, this is all I have, go ahead and print it at 72 dpi. I really need this image. My customer doesn't care. Then oftentimes your image quality will be distorted or pixelated. And so, obviously, your printer can't be responsible for that. So that's where Artvark Express or paying an art charge for the artwork that you send in comes in handy. And once again, here's the notes about preferring, if you can, CMYK. The ideal would be utilizing the digital color palette. But Pantone colors are pretty good matches, but CMYK is ideal. So I've included the hyperlink for you for the Stahls digital color palette. It'll just get you right there. And then in order to upload or send us your artwork, you would go to stalls.com and you would click on Custom Digital Products. And so that's where we're going to go right now to see how to upload. So for Custom Digital Products, so we're at stalls.com, we clicked on Custom Digital Products, and then here's all your options for uploading. And the nice thing here is that, so then the question becomes, okay, So I have a polyester performance wear garment. I don't know what material to digitally print on. Well, once you go into the full color digital transfers and logos, here's an explanation of each of the materials and what it would be best for. So the materials like CAD Color Solutions Clear or Clear Matte, you can see are only for white and light colored fabrics. But they will go on cotton polyester. Clear will go on lycra and spandex, which is typically your performance wear, your volleyball uniforms, and then also nylon. And it also describes what the material is, that it has a soft hand and a matte finish. Express print is probably one of our most popular printing materials. This is ideal for light or dark colored fabrics. It has an amazing amount of stretch. It has a super soft hand, a matte finish, and it's good for cotton, polyester, lycra, and spandex. Now, when you get into those nylons, a lot of performance wear, trickier sort of fabrics, CAD Color Solutions Opaque is definitely the option for you. It has an enormous amount of stretch and rebound, perfect for performance wear, great for running, easy to apply, nice, thin, soft hand, and it can go on lighter darks. Opaque is pretty much the all-around. This is the material I was telling you. You could apply it to leather pad folios. It's fine for koozies. I mean, the amount of things it's used for is absolutely unbelievable. When I was in the custom logo department, we had somebody send us in it was some type of wood, like bamboo wood notebooks, in order for us to apply them, and they applied absolutely beautifully. So it did not have a sticker feel. It was almost had a feel like it was actually engraved into the notebook. And we did that just with Opaque and a heat press. And then another great material is this CAD Prints Permatwill, where you can get a full color design on light or dark colored fabrics. It's good for cotton, polyester, polycotton blends, great for soccer uniforms. So it's actually a printable twill. So you get the feel of twill or feel of an embroidery in full color that you can simply apply with your heat press. You can sew it or not sew it. That's up to you, but it doesn't need to be sewn since it's cut with a laser. And then you would want to select subblock. That is mostly for your soccer uniforms, your highly saturated polyesters, your reds and your navies, when you think you might experience a problem with dye migration. It's best obviously, for polyesters when it's what it's most used for. And it has a blocker on the back of it in order to create any dye migration. So on that Panda Express, printed on red, you will not see any dye migration. So now you've read through all this, you've decided what the best material is for you to send up, and now we're going to click Order Now. So I like to keep things simple. I'm not one who likes to go through a million steps, but if it's your first time, you may find the wizard easy to use. You can just follow step 1. Step 2, you've already decided what it is that you're heat applying on, what material you want to use, the size and quantity, or you can go directly to, click here, and go directly to how to upload your art. So here's where you would upload your file from whatever file. Let's do this just this Corel Draw image, okay? We're looking to reprint that. I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it Corel Draw Large because I'm maybe going to send in a smaller one later. For this design, I do want an outline because it's going on, let's say, navy blue, and I want it to pop. So I want a white outline on it. Any art notes I want to tell the artists, please use white outline. Whatever notes you might want to tell them. Or let's say this is going on highly sublimated polyester jerseys, just to let them know. And oftentimes I've had customers, maybe they've selected the express print, and due to their notes in there, we've said, oh, wait a second, let's give them a call and let them know that maybe subblock would be a better option. So for that, we're going to select subblock. I want 25 pieces, and I want my design to be 4 by 4. Now, the nice thing about this tool is you can even use it as a calculator. So in order to get an immediate quote to send to your Since I'm logged in as a customer, it's not going to pop up for me, but as soon as you do that, it's going to give you your unit price per piece. So you can play around with your quantities. So if we order 50, then it's going to be this much per piece. So yeah, because I'm logged in as me, but this is a perfect little calculator. So you really don't even need to upload the actual file in order to get these calculations until you try to send it in, until you try to add it to your cart. And if you know, it's going to say, oh, wait, you need to upload your artwork. So I can get a proof if I'd like, if I want to either be able to see it or be able to send it to my customer for their approval, so there's no questions. And then I can send them my email address, and then I just simply accept the terms and conditions and then add it to my cart. So it's really that easy to send in your artwork. And then you can see it right there. We've got a full color digital transfer in white. Corel Draw Large is what I'm calling it, going on highly sublimated polyester jerseys. And I do want a proof. So if you need it faster, let's say you need to upload it today and you need it to ship out tomorrow, then you're definitely not going to want to select a proof. If you upload your artwork typically before 10 a.m., you will typically receive a proof same day. And once you approve the proof, it'll ship within 24 hours. That's the general standard guidelines. It may vary during extremely busy times, which is typically September through the beginning of October, and then obviously in spring, which is probably pretty much your same busy times as well. So let's go back to our PowerPoint here. So once again, if you have any questions about submitting artwork or any questions as far as what I'm describing so far, let me know. Okay. So when do I want to send in my vector art to create a CAD-cut design? So we've looked at digital. We know that we want digital for a full color design, if we're doing a full color small run design, or if we have it on, well, there's a lot of CAD-cut materials that go on performance wear, but typically if it's more than 2 or 3 colors. So I would want a custom cut product if I'm creating an applique, either out of boxer craft fabric or twill or applique fabrics, or a 1, 2, or 3 color custom CAD cut design, which would be a design cut out of heat transfer vinyl. So typically when you are uploading a custom cut design, they do not need to be in vector, although this is preferred. I've had people hand me in hand drawings, fax them over, just a hand drawing of what their idea is, raster art or vector, but either way, no matter what, there's a $20 setup fee, no matter what, with custom cut, because we have to transfer it, no matter what it is, into a file that's cuttable. We don't typically cut it on a vinyl cutter. Oftentimes we may use a water jet. We may use a laser. So in order to create it, transfer it into a file that is usable for us, there's an automatic $20 setup fee. But beyond that $20 setup fee, it's priced by the square inch, whatever your design is, and a minimum of 6 pieces. So if you have 2 colors, that pricing by the square inch would be doubled. So let's say it's $6.36 for 1 color for a, whatever, 6 by 8 design. Then for a 2 color, it would be $12.72. So you would upload your artwork at stallsag.com for a quote. So on the website, on the top navigator button, here we selected custom digital in order to upload your digital artwork. And here we're going to select custom cut products. Let's see. I don't know what, oh, there we go. Okay, phew, now my screen's popping up. Okay, good. Let's get out of here so I can, okay. So for custom art, let's go to stalls.com, and then I'll just pull this over here. Okay. And we go to custom cut products, custom cut designs. And then here's where we would select custom cut, which is typically out of twill or applique fabrics, and then custom kiss cut. And this is if you would like these to come pre-assembled or pre-aligned. So these 3 layers are actually already not sewn, but they're sort of stuck together, and so you typically only have one sew out, which makes things really nice for embroiderers. But let's look at custom CAD cut. So this is ideal for 1, 2, or 3 color designs. This is a custom CAD cut design. Here's another custom CAD cut design. And you would upload it at Stalls ID. So you have your artwork. You're simply going to fill out this form. You would select custom CAD cut, and we don't need to select CAD prints because you already know where to send that artwork. So custom CAD cut if you want it pre-positioned on a carrier and it's heat transfer vinyl. Custom cut if you're using applique or heat seal materials. And then you would simply follow the prompts and upload your artwork, which is as easy as attaching artwork to an email. It's the same thing. If you've ever done an email attachment, it's exactly the same thing. You would just click on a browse button, find it on your computer, upload it, and then typically you'll get a quote within 24 hours. And one thing to note is that you will receive a reference number upon successful uploading. Write that reference number down. It's very important for you to keep for your references. You won't be able to access it in your online account. There's no other way you'll be able to retrieve that reference number if you haven't written it down when you've uploaded the artwork. So what do I do when I want to reorder? So there's no charge for minimal artwork modification. So when you call back to reorder, if you just had, let's say, a small little change that you needed to make, then there's no charge for that. If more extensive work is required, then it would be a new setup fee or, art charges at $20 a half hour. But one thing to note is that when you're reordering, if there are no changes, then your fees are exactly the same. So there is no setup fees on your reorders if it's the same as the original design. We also keep, Stalls ID also keeps your artwork on file for 18 months from the last order. So when you're reordering, please provide the reorder number or your date of the original order, your dealer account name, and your contact name. These are all good things to have on file. Your original order number, any of those, we can locate that artwork for you. And then hopefully coming soon, you won't have to call in necessarily to reorder. Now, your digital designs you can reorder online. And what you would want to do is, this is one trick that I always note, when you receive a proof, if you do in fact receive a proof, set up a little folder that says Stalls Proofs on your computer and save it. And then what you can do is you can re-upload that proof, and you'll know it came from us. It's got a grid on the background and then the actual design that's been cut. And then you would re-upload that, and then you can put in the notes, this is already, it'll actually ask you if this is an order that you've already created. And that's the best way to send it to us. That way the artist, you're not sending your old artwork or uploading your old artwork that we've already created for you. If you receive a proof, save it into a Stalls Art folder, and then that way you'll be able to retrieve any of those proofs for uploading for your digital order. So for custom, though, typically you're going to have to call the custom logo department in order to reorder your design that you've already created. So when you do call any of those, the date of your original order, the reorder number is ideal, but your original artwork, order number, any of those things, even an invoice number, even the word, the title of it, or a text that was used in that order is typically many of the several ways that they can find your artwork for you in order to reorder it. So for screen printed transfers, you can access the art guidelines for Transfer Express. And then we'll open that file. And I can also include this as a PDF or the link in my blog post, but you can also access it from your PDF here. And so here's everything you need to know about how to send in artwork to Transfer Express. It's all right there in one PDF. You can print it out, keep it in a binder, keep it on hand in order to know, all about line thicknesses, what recommended line thicknesses are, what's ideal before sending it in. And so if you have a graphic artist, if you are a graphic artist, these are the guidelines you want to go through. If you're going to send it out to Artvark Express, then typically you may want to let them know about these line thickness requirements. Then you can have the ideal artwork in order to send in. But this PDF will explain everything you need to know about what the guidelines are in order to send in artwork for a screen printed transfer. And then also at Transfer Express, you could just, once you go there on the home page, it specifically says upload your artwork. So once you've already created your artwork and you understand the guidelines, you can go there and upload your artwork to them. And it's a big brown tile that says send us your artwork. You can't miss it. So some additional resources here is things that we've already looked at and that I've highlighted for you in order to access at a later date if need be. So this explains the difference between raster and vector. Here's also an itemized list of exactly how to place an order at stalls.com if you're not a customer, how to set up an account. Also the custom cut artwork guidelines that we've already gone over, your custom digital artwork guidelines, a link to Artvark Express, a link to transferexpress.com, a link to stalls.com, a link to the Stalls digital color palette, and then also an easy pricing calculator, which is really cool. Let's see if we can go there and I'll show that to you. That's actually on Transfer Express's website. And it pretty much utilizes the same system that I showed you on the Stalls ID, where you can just put in your media type and the cut-in type and the size in inches, and it'll give you a calculated price. So let's say I want a window decal, and I want it with an outline, and I want 25 of them, and I want them 6 by 6. Let's see if it'll calculate it for us. There you go. There's your pricing right there. Pretty cool. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to type them in. I do hope that I don't see any questions popping in yet. If any of you have any questions about, when to hand in raster artwork, when to hand in vector artwork, and if not, then I would like to thank each of you for attending today. You can also find additional questions, or if you think of a question later, you can send it to us at info@greatgarmentgraphics.com. Or if you'd like to sign up for another webinar or sign up for our mailing list, you can do that at www.greatgarmentgraphics.com. And then I've also listed other resources, websites to go to, t-shirt forums if you haven't utilized it yet. Please do get on there. It's a great community. Oh, I do see we have a question. Yes, John, this is the same process you would use for doing vinyl signs. Absolutely. And I'm assuming you're talking about either using sign-making material or pressure-sensitive vinyl. But yes, that's absolutely pretty much the same process you would utilize. So if you are new in the business and you have questions about how to get into the business, if you have suggestions for us, feel free to send those. And like I was saying, at tshirtforums.com, there is a plethora of information there, and it is a really friendly and helpful community that you can get on and join in, and people are more than willing to help and give you suggestions. And then also, you can utilize YouTube. Has several. Stalls ID has a channel, Transfer Express has a channel, CAD-cut Direct has a channel, Great Garment Graphics has a channel. You can subscribe to all these and see, get some ideas, and then also new heat printing techniques in order for you to be able to increase and expand your business, because in the end, that's really the name of the game. And so finally, in the spirit of You Don't Have to Be an Artist Month, Transfer Express is going to join us on Thursday for creating art for screen printed transfers. And so in this webinar, I only touched a very little on how to send art or what the requirements are to send art to Transfer Express. But this webinar will go more in depth as far as Transfer Express itself, how to create art, what their artwork guidelines are, different ways that you can create art in order to send in. So this already has almost 100 people registered. Their webinars are really helpful, and they're pretty hot topics. So if you would like to know how to utilize or create art for screen printed transfers, then this is definitely the webinar to sit in on. We do also have other webinars coming up later in the month. We have how to use AnyWord Anyway, which is a Stalls ID specific product, but if any of you haven't used it, please join this webinar because this tool is absolutely out of this world, and it's a way to create custom art without actually having to incur custom art charges, or actually really custom text with bars and things like that. And then also, for those of you who are embroiderers, if you have an issue creating your sew files or creating digitized files, you don't necessarily have a digitizer, I will also be hosting a webinar on the 22nd of this month in order to help you out in that area. And then finally on the 31st, we did take a look at CADWorks Live today. I got you on the site. We got to see how to vectorize some of your artwork files. We talked a little bit about it. But if you'd like to know more about how to use it and really get this tool under your belt and be able to utilize it, then please join Josh Ellsworth on the 31st for a webinar, and it's going to be solely on how to create vector art, which is what we're talking about for cutting with CADWorks Live. So once again, I would like to thank everybody for joining me today. I hope you did find this webinar helpful and useful. I hope it's helped you navigate a little bit more of the artwork world, giving you some ideas and tips, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.